Welcome to session unit 2, session 4. Today we are going to discuss about factoring services. Okay. So what is factoring services? Whenever business need additional cash for their working capital management, they can borrow that money from a bank, or they can use the letter of credit or the sale bill to get additional money for the working capital requirement. So how the process works? So customer has an invoice. Customer gives an invoice to the client. So what does the client do? The client can give that invoice to the factoring services for 80 percentage of the invoice to the client. So what do the client gets in amount is, whenever you need additional cash for your working capital, the client or the business owners can use the factoring services to get the amount immediately instead of waiting for 2 months or 3 months. So what is factoring? Factoring is a financial service in which business entity sells its bills receivables to a third party at a discount in order to raise fund. There are types of factoring: recourse and non-recourse. First, we will see recoursing factoring. Recoursing means the client is required to buy back the unpaid bill exchange from the factors. Okay, credit risk stays with the client. Unrecourse factoring means here uh, whatever may be the factoring services is responsible for the invoices. If the customers are not paying that invoices, automatically the factoring service is responsible, not the client. Okay. Okay, what is factoring? Factoring is the origin of word from factor, which means doer. Okay, in ancient times, there used to be a lender used to give the produce, and in turns, it will be taken as a security amount. Okay, what are the features of a factoring? So normally a factoring service will be between 90 days to 150 days. Okay, costly short-term finance. It's most costliest short-term finance ever. Okay, bad debts are not considered for factoring services. Credit rating is not required if you are in a business. A third one is normal factoring services will be 1.5 percentage to 3% per month. So if you take into account, means highest it will be 36 percentage interest rate will be charged, and as low as 1,000 rupees also can be used for factoring services. And if the payment is delayed for factoring, normally additional interest rate of 1 to 2 percentage is fixed. What are the types of factoring services? Recourse, non-recourse, advanced factoring, bank participation factoring, mature factoring, notified undisclosed factoring, full factoring, invoice factoring, and export factoring. Okay, we will see. See, recourse means the client is responsible for the bills. If the customers are not paying, the client has to pay. Non-recourse means the factoring services is responsible to get the payment from the customer. The client is not responsible. Advanced factoring means so normally factoring services will give 60 to 70 percentage as the amount for the invoices. For advanced factoring, the money amount can go up to 90 percentage. Okay, sometimes bank also can act as a factoring services in factoring services. Then maturing factoring services, the maturity date when comes, automatically factoring services applicable. Then full factoring services mean they provide all the services to related to factoring services. Invoice factoring and export factoring. Invoice factoring means if it is an domestic sale, it is invoice. If it is an export factoring means a letter of credit as is used as a factoring services. What are the factoring charges? There are financial service charges and service charges. Okay, how do a customer gets the factoring? The customer will say, invoice is sent to the customer. The invoice will be taken for factoring services. After verification of all the process, the factoring service will provide 80 percentage of the value of the invoice to the customer for the working capital requirement. Then end of the time, the remaining 20 percentage will be paid, and the factoring services will get back the bills amount. Okay, what is bill discounting? Bill discounting is also a part of factoring services. Okay, it is in Indian Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. Bill of exchange is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order signed by the maker directing a certain person to pay a sum of money only to or order of certain person bearing that instrument. That means whenever you're going to create a bill of bills discounting, automatically it is a valid contract between a two party where one will bear the payment of others. What are the parties involved in bill of exchange? One is drawer, person who creates bill of exchange, drawee who is responsible. Then third one is who is going to pay for that bill of exchange. What are the types of bills? We have demand bills, we have documentary bills, we have debt payment acceptance, debt payments, clean bill, inland bill, foreign bill, accommodating bill, supply bill, and hundis. Hundis is normally used in agriculture process. Okay, then we have factoring and forfeiting. So factoring we have seen, now we are going to see forfeiting. Okay, this is forfeiters. Forfeiting is normally used for exports and imports. Okay, so how factoring services is applicable? Same thing will be applicable for forfeiting also. Forfeiting is also surrendering one's right to lien. So letter of credit is given to the bank and it is used. Okay, what is forfeiting? Advantages. Simply, it is very simple. It is flexible for the exporters or importers. It is normally based on non-recourse factors. Okay, a fixed interest rate is given. Exim Bank is used as a forfeiting process. Then the process of forfeiting is very simple. What is the disadvantage? Sometimes it can be the high interest rate. Okay, admin has the control of everything. Okay, sometimes importers not maybe willing to pay to the forfeiters. There is no legal framework for the importers. Okay, and insufficient data. Okay, these are the different types. Thank you.